Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm bringing you another What's Sold on eBay video. This is going to go over 20 items that have sold for me over the last week or two while in quarantine. Now, as always, this is not everything that has sold for me on eBay. This is just a very good selection of items, each of which brings its own unique thing to the table in hopes that it helps you learn something and is able to build your reselling knowledge to bring into your own reselling business. Before we hop into the video, this week's positive comment shout out goes to Greg Bustamante. I hope I said that right. He said, great info on modifying that box. Nice quick tutorial. Keep up these tricks. Thanks, Greg. I'm glad you were able to find that tutorial useful. I know a lot of other people did too. I appreciate the feedback on that. If you don't know what box modification trick he's talking about, you can check it out in my last video. I show you how to take a small box and resize it to fit larger items. It's a really useful trick and it definitely comes in handy, so check that out. Now, with all that being said, let's hop into the video. Okay, so our first item here is a pair of Bed Stew Bonnie ankle boots. I mentioned in the video when I picked these up that this was a brand new brand for me. I didn't know anything about them. I was checking out of the counter at Salvation Army and they were behind the glass. I paid up for these at 20 bucks a piece. I saw them sitting there and I just looked them up. I figured I could make some good profit on them. There wasn't a ton of sold comps to go on, but the ones that I did see were very good, so I figured I'd take a shot on them. These were brand new with the tags. Again, I'd never sold these before. Here's what the tag looked like on the boots. It was nice leather. They were very high quality feeling boots. On the bottom, they had these little nails that go around the outsides of the boots, which lets you know it is a handmade or a higher quality boot, and that's definitely something to look for and a sign of something to look up. Now, like I said, I picked these up right before the lockdown started here in Cincinnati, and they actually sold relatively quickly in about 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say, and I made a very good profit turning that $20 into $150, so I couldn't be happy. This is definitely a brand I'm going to look for in the future, and one that I think will benefit you because I'd never seen it, so I bet a lot of you haven't seen it. Next up, we have a vintage starter Olympics jacket. This was actually a super cool jacket. I picked this up at a garage sale last summer, probably about halfway through the summer, so it's been sitting for a while. I originally had a pretty high price on it of $70, and as you can see, it was sitting for a while, so I ended up putting it on 15% off sale, and it ended up selling at $60, so still quite a good profit. I think I only had like $3 into this. At a garage sale, it's usually what I end up paying for track jackets and stuff, between like $1 and $5. This one just happened to be really cool. Had a nice big logo on the back, and this is the kind of stuff you want to look for when it comes to vintage stuff. It's the stuff with big colors, big spell outs. As you can see right here on the sleeve, it did have another big spell out. It said track and field, and that's the kind of stuff you want to look for. You want the bright stuff, the big stuff that stands out, that makes them pop in a crowd. It's the stuff that starts conversations, and this is definitely a piece that would do that. So the thing I want you to take away from this is that vintage stuff that stands out, that's big, that's bold, that's bright, that has a very good subject matter. That's the kind of stuff you want to gravitate towards, and the stuff that will still sell year-round. Here we have a Nintendo Wii lot. Video game stuff has been flying out of my store. I've been listing a ton of it. I've been selling a ton of it, and this is no exception. I've been selling the retro stuff and the modern stuff, so everything from all genres is selling. Now, that's not really a surprise because video game stuff always sells, but right now I'm able to get a premium on stuff because people are staying indoors and they are looking for things to do inside. So I've definitely noticed an increase in price in stuff like this Nintendo Wii Bundle. I had it listed at $80 and it sold like same day. And before all this quarantine and everything happened, when people were still buying them but not as often as they are currently, I would maybe get like $65-ish for a bundle like this. And this bundle just included the console, 3 games that are just shovelware. These would sell for like under $5 a piece normally, and a Wiimote and a nunchuck. And that's a good tip for you guys. If you have shovelware games laying around from bulk buys that you've done in the past, throw them in with your consoles. It makes your listing look more enticing. It makes people want to buy your lot over someone else who doesn't have those games, even if the games aren't very good ones. Here's a pretty cool piece. This was that vintage leather eagle belt that I picked up in a estate sale. You can see it was a really cool belt buckle head on it. Had this nice eagle head on it, and the belt itself was actually really cool too. It had this like nice embossed leather eagles all throughout it. Really cool belt, and I'm not surprised that it sold really fast. There's a couple people in the comments who mentioned that they wouldn't mind having the belt, so I threw it up on eBay, first come first serve, and it ended up selling for $30. It had everything going for it. It had a really cool embossing. It almost looked hand done. I don't think it was. I think it might have been hand stamped. and then it had a really cool subject matter being bald eagles, and it just looked like a really clean piece. So I'm glad this sold. This is the kind of stuff that you want to see when you're picking up belts. You want stuff that is unique, you want stuff that stands out, and you want stuff that looks good. This next item here is a Linksys Router. I'm not really sure where I picked this up at. I'm guessing at a garage sale at some point. It was buried in my death pile and I ended up pulling it out, and I was like, huh, this is a really good one. If you don't know, there are certain models of routers that sell for very high prices, and this was one of them. This model number was WRT3200 ACM. Like I said, I don't remember where I picked it up or what I paid, but I sold it for $150. I'm guessing I had probably $5 to $10 into it, because that's usually what I would end up paying for something like this. But when I pulled this out, I plugged it in, I was able to reset the passwords and everything, was able to get it to working, talking to devices, so everything worked really well on it. Very happy with this sale. Now, this doesn't mean go out and buy all the routers you see. A lot of them are not worth anything, and the only reason that I would pick this one up and look at it at a garage sale and stuff is because this is a model with the 4 antenna on it, and that is a telltale sign that it's probably a little bit of a higher end model. Now, there are plenty of models that only have the 2 antennas that still go for good money, still from Linksys. They almost look exactly like this with only 2 antennas on them. There's some of those models that go for good money as well, but 4 antennas on something is typically a pretty good sign that it's going to be a higher end model. Here we have a pair of shoes. This is a pair of women's Skechers Shapeups. If you don't know about Shapeups, they're fantastic sellers. They always sell. There are certain pairs that actually sell for a higher value than other ones do. This one was a slip resistant pair, and they ended up selling for $40.38. These ones were in pretty good condition, which is something you want to look for with Shapeups. People like the ones that are going to last them for a while, and when you're looking at Shapeups, if you can find the ones that say for work or something of that nature, those are the ones that are the higher end models that sell for a little bit higher of a price. Now, if you find the ones that aren't the for work ones, they still will sell, they just won't sell for as much of a premium. Here we have an Adidas ACM soccer jersey. Now, this was an older model. This was from the 90s, but it had the nice 3 stripes down the sleeves, and it did have the nice spell outs on the front. It had the Adidas logo and everything. This was one of those jerseys that I pick up, and I knew that it would be a higher value jersey just because of the way that it was made. And you'll become more accustomed to that as you sell jerseys more and more. You'll notice the ones that are higher quality feeling, the ones that have stitched aspects to them, and the ones that just have this like nice vibe to them. I don't know really how to describe it as much, but you'll kind of know the ones that are worth picking up. This one I had originally listed at $45. Again, I had a 15% off sale on my store, and it sold for $38.21. This was actually a personal item of mine that I decided to go ahead and sell. This was a Razer Lancehead gaming mouse. Now, mice in general typically won't sell for a ton unless they are a good brand name like Apple, or in this case, Razer. Now, if you're not familiar in dealing with electronics and mice in general, there is a good way to tell if it is a gaming mouse. Now, this one came out and told you that it was a Razer Tournament Edition mouse, so that should spark your interest in general. But another way to tell if something is a gaming mouse is you look on the side of the mouse. You can see this one had 2 side buttons, but a lot of them will have a bunch of numbers down the side, 1 through 9, and that is a telltale sign that it's a gaming mouse. It's probably something higher end and something that you should pick up. This one wasn't a super high-end model. This was just an extra one that I had laying around, and I ended up selling it for a best offer of $20. Here we have a FootJoy golf polo. Now, FootJoy typically won't sell for the price that you see here. This one was special. What made this one so special was the fact that it had this Titleist patch over here on the sleeve. Normally, when you're looking at FootJoy or Peter Millar stuff, you don't want the ones that have a golf course logo or something on the sleeve. You want to find ones that are plain and clean, and those ones usually go for around 20 to 25 bucks. But there are a few exceptions, and this is one of them. Having Titleist on the sleeve, or Masters Collection, or Callaway, something of that nature where it's like a brand deal for that shirt, is something that is going to bump up the cost and bump up your profits. Now, those aren't the only examples of the ones that are more valuable, but those are just a few off the top of my head. So if you see some of these golf polos and they have a recognizable brand name on the sleeves, it might be worth looking up because there's a chance that it might be a higher end piece. Another telltale sign for a higher end FootJoy polo is if it has the FJ on the collar, like this one did up here. You can see it has the FJ tag in black, and then on the collar it has the FJ embroidered in white. And that's another thing that will boost the value of your FootJoy polos. Next up, we have a toy. This is a 1984 Transformer. I don't have a bunch of these left. I have like maybe 3 or 4, I think, left. This one took a while to sell. I had this since partway through the summer, I believe, and I had it listed at $25, ended up taking a best offer of $20 on it. This one was just a really small one. It was only about that big, but it's something to look for if you're digging through toy bins. Look for old vintage Transformers. They sell super well, not to mention all of the other 80s and 90s action figures that sell for very good money. But this one was a little special. It ended up having a little card that came with it, told you about the Transformer itself, and it just increased the value a little bit. But vintage Transformers always sell well. They range in anywhere from like a few bucks all the way up to a couple $100. So there's a very wide variety of stuff that you can find, and they're definitely something that you want to look for when you're either looking through someone's toy bin at a garage sale, or maybe hanging in those plastic bags at a thrift store, or maybe even cleaning out your own closet. Might find some there while you're in quarantine. Here we have an Eli Diamond, which is a brand that I was not familiar with, but it was a very nice looking Western shirt. You can see it had some nice embroidery going on up here. This was also a brand new with tags item, as you can see right here. Here was the tag on it. Now, like I said, I wasn't very familiar with this brand at all, but just from feeling the shirt, I could tell it was a pretty good quality of material. It had some good color to it, and Western shirts in general do sell well, especially as we move into like the spring and summer and rodeos start opening up. People are going to start looking for stuff to wear. Things to look for in Western shirts are the big embroidered designs. You want to look for like the rhinestone embellishments and pearl snap buttons, as you can see here on this one. This one had pearl snaps. They were red pearl snaps. But all those things are things that increase the value in Western shirts and make people want to buy your stuff. The more flamboyant, the more out there, and the more bright it can be, that is what's going to sell it. This was a pretty cool piece. I found this right before quarantine as well. This was a Planet Hollywood vintage button front shirt, and this thing was really cool. I thought it was jams when I pulled it out, and the ones that I found online when doing comps all said jams in the titles and keywords, so I put it in mine. But this was just overall a super cool piece. If you don't know what jams is, they're these really bright and awesome shirts that collectors love to buy, and this definitely has that vibe going for it. I'd never seen the Planet Hollywood one specifically, but this thing was awesome. I knew it was worth picking up without even looking up comps in the thrift store, and this is the kind of stuff that I love to find. It was on the Planet Hollywood tag, and it just had a really awesome vibe to it, and that's the kind of stuff that you'll get a feel for as you thrift more and more. But this piece was just awesome, and I had to share it with you. Ended up selling for a best offer of $60 in about 2 weeks. Next up, we have a North Face pullover sweater. I put this one in here specifically to show you the power of keywording. Now, as you can see, this is a plain, normal looking North Face pullover sweater. It's got the 1/4 zip, nothing too special about it. But because I knew how to keyword it, I was able to get a higher price than what other people had them listed for. And the keywords that I'm talking about are these two right here, waffle and thermal fleece. Now, these things are specifically searched for by buyers because they are referring to the exact specific type of pullover they want. As you can see here in this picture, this pattern right here, the really small checkerboard pattern, is called waffling, and it's a thermal style shirt, and it's something that people search for specifically on eBay a lot. Keywording is super important when it comes to selling, and it's something that you definitely want to learn how to do. The better your keywording is, the more people are going to see your item. Here we have that Garneau cycling bib that I found in the thrift store. I think I paid like it was somewhere between $5 and $10 for it. Cycling gear is selling hot right now. I think I sold out of everything cycling related I have in my store. I might have 1 or 2 pieces left, but cycling gear is super hot right now. People are getting out, they're riding their bikes, and they're wanting the stuff that goes with it. Now, this is a full body cycling bib, so it goes on over the legs and it comes up over the shoulders. You can also find cycling shorts and jerseys separately. All of that kind of stuff is going to sell. Garneau is a pretty good brand to find. This was the Fit Sensor 2 was the model, and it was new with tags, so that's why it sold for such a high price. As you can see right here, here's the tag on it. But even used, this would sell very well, and I would have no problem moving this in my store. It's something that you want to look for when you're going through the athletic section in your own thrift stores, and something that is going to sell well until next winter because people cycle in the fall, spring, and summer. Going along those same lines of people wanting to get out and do stuff, activewear is selling really well for me when it comes to clothing right now. Now, I've definitely noticed a decrease in clothing sales overall over the last few weeks. However, I have noticed an increase in physical fitness clothing. And this is one of those pieces. This is a Lululemon zipper jacket. This is something that people would wear when they're out running, maybe doing yoga, or out just taking a stroll in the morning. Lululemon is obviously a very hot brand and something that you want to look for, but I did want to put this in here because if you have this stuff sitting in your death pile, now's the time to list it because they are selling very well for me. Anything activewear related, from these lightweight jackets to yoga pants to shorts to muscle shirts, all that kind of stuff is selling pretty well, and if you have that stuff in your death piles, list it. I think I paid like $5 for this in the thrift store and ended up selling for $38.21. This one right here is actually a pretty cool piece. This was a Hatebreed Windbreaker jacket. I'd never heard of Hatebreed before. When I found it, I figured it was a band of some kind. I didn't look it up in the store. It had that kind of thrasher appeal to it, which is what drew me to it in the thrift store. As you can see on the back, it had this nice big skull graphic with like the thrasher style lettering and flames right there. And on the front here, you can see it had the small little logo on the front. Now, there wasn't a ton of these listed. There was 1 or 2 jackets to go on, and these were actually selling brand new in their store still, so I knew I wasn't going to get a ton of money for it. However, when you pay $5 for something and you sell it for $25, you don't complain because that's pretty good profit. I only sat on this for about a month before it sold, but I threw this one in here to show you that band stuff in general sells very well when it comes to clothing. It doesn't matter what article of clothing it's on. It's the idea and the premise behind the clothing that sells the piece for you. Here's something I haven't talked about in a while. It's something that I really enjoy selling. It is plush and stuffed animal stuff. It's a category that I think is really underrated in the reselling community, and I have done exceptionally well selling plush in the past. This one right here is Littlefoot from The Land Before Time. I picked this up at a garage sale over the summer, and it ended up sitting for a little while, obviously, but it did end up selling at $25.46. I had like $1 into this from that garage sale. I haven't talked about them in my videos recently because my stock has been running low on them, but they are something that I do look at. It's something that I always want to go through when I hit the stores, and something that I think a lot of resellers will overlook. So make sure you're educated and you are looking when you are out hunting. Now again, just like with some of the stuff before, this doesn't mean go out and buy all the plush you can. It just means that certain plush is worth very good money. Alright, like I said, I have been selling a ton of video game stuff, and I just wanted to throw one of the more retro style things in here. This was a Afterburner Sega 32X game. This was just for the game cartridge itself. I didn't have the box or the manual or anything to go with it. This was strictly for the game only, and it sold for $42.50. Now, if you did watch that last video of mine, you know I dug into the back of my closets and I pulled out a bunch of the old stock of video games I had from my old collection. Most of the games that I pulled from my collection were like doubles or triples or shovelware that was just taking up space in my closet, and I sold most of it in a big lot the other day. However, there were quite a few titles that I pulled to sell separately, and this was one of them. So if you have any video game stuff sitting around in your house, right now is the time to sell it. Get it listed, find it, and get it up. Now, as per usual, I always throw in one of these helmets. They are still selling. I think I have a total of 2 or 3 left. I think I have 1 snowboarding one left and like 1 motocross one left for sure. This one actually got returned to me once, and I just took the return, ended up relisting it, sold it again for $100. I don't need to say too much on this. I've talked about them a lot. If you haven't seen this pickup, go watch it. It's the main video when you click on my channel. And this brings us to our last item. This is a vintage US Coast Guard flight suit coveralls. I forgot that I had these. I bought these at a school fundraiser sale earlier last summer at some point, and they just ended up in the bottom of my death pile because they're a little annoying to take pictures of, because when I'm taking pictures of them, they don't fit on my studio setup for me to get good pictures. When I picked these up, I actually picked up 2 of them. As you can see here, I sold one of the 2 that I had, sold for $49.95. And it actually sold pretty quickly. Once I actually got it up and listed, it sold in under 2 weeks, so I'm hoping the other one gets sold here soon. And again, this just goes to show that stuff sitting in your death pile isn't going to make you money if it's just sitting there. You need to dig in, you need to get that stuff listed, and right now is the time to do so while you have extra time on your hands. Go through your stuff and get your items listed. For this item specifically, the reason I bought it is because I know military stuff sells very well. I'm pretty comfortable selling military stuff, and this is a piece that I don't really come across often, being a flight suit, and on top of that, it was a Coast Guard piece, as you can see right here. Normally, if you find the flight suits, it'll be like Navy or Air Force. This one was Coast Guard, which is a little bit unique, and it made mine stand out compared to some of the other listings on eBay, which was great. But that's going to bring us to the end of the video. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you did learn something from it, please remember to hit that subscribe button, like this video, and comment down below what you ended up learning. Thank you all once again for supporting me here on my YouTube channel. And until next time, keep on treasure hunting. Peace.